Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taormina, blogger around the OAA, the host of Last See Brain Cells, and the host of Between Tomatoes on Orion Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Television. This week we're in the midst of the state football playoffs. We got 3 teams in the OAA that remain. Starting off with our guest here, the coach of the defending Division IV state champion, Coach Rob Oder. Coach, thank you for joining us this week here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
When you look at the playoff map, I want to know what was your thought process when you looked at the bracket and they found out you were the 3rd seed in the playoffs. So in your district. So talk about what was your kids' mind process and your thought process, looking at you guys had the 5th most playoff points, but yet you were the 3rd seed in your district.
Well, our initial thought was that we were coming out of the regular season, we were playing a little better on the road than at home. So we were comfortable with the fact that we would have to travel a little bit. But after the first round, we definitely kept an eye on everything as it unfolded to want to give our seniors another chance to play at home. And we was able to do that in the district final and the regional final.
When you talk about that game against Redford Union, you played them earlier in the year. You won week 1. It took 2 days though. But then what was your thought process having to play Redford Union again in the first round?
You know, you fall under the old adage of it's hard to beat a team twice. We felt that from week 1 to week 9, we wasn't the same team. We also felt that with the number of injuries that we had earlier in the year, the first time we played Redford Union, they didn't meet us, meaning our whole team. We had about 5 guys that didn't play in that game that are full-time starters for us. So we knew the second time it would be a lot more to prepare for because all of our guys were healthy and we felt like we had an advantage in that area.
And when you went in there and won pretty convincingly 46-6. I mean, like, obviously you look at your team this year, the injury bug to Nate Washlow earlier in the year. I mean, obviously you're Nepi Dakota having to play quarterback. When you look at, and then now Nate's back now. So talk about how the quarterback has really started to situate a little bit, especially with Nate and Dakota sharing snaps.
Well, a quarterback in our system has the keys. They drive us. They make us go. Our quarterback is more than a game manager. He has to be an elite ball player. And the loss of Nate kind of set us back and it shrunk the playbook tremendously. But we knew that Dakota, having had the Little League background of a quarterback, would be able to keep some drives alive because of his legs and the things he can do as a dual threat. But we kind of just wanted to hold the fort until we got, some of those guys back healthy. So our mindset was to be cautious and use Dakota, but at the same time, still want to remain opportunistic and take shots down the field and do different things like that. So we kind of opened it up a little bit for Dakota in anticipation for this playoff run. Teams are going to have to prepare for all of it.
And when you look at, of course, speaking of that playoff run, let's talk about that game against Dearborn Divine Child. An unfamiliar opponent for you, obviously, but you had the game at home on your home field. So what was your thought process of, okay, there was a possibility you had to go play Manus Heights Lanphier, but then you find out Dearborn Divine Child knocked off Lanphier. And what was your thought process then and your kids' thought process of, having to play Dearborn Divine Child instead of Madison Heights Lanphier?
Well, they were super excited in the fact that they got to play at home. As coaches, we were kind of a little more focused on the versatility of Divine Child. We felt that offensively, the things that Divine Child do would prepare, would be more of a challenge for us. So the preparation kind of changed a lot. You had to switch gears kind of from a Lanphier that's more one-dimensional to Divine Child that can kill you in multiple ways. So as coaches, we kind of had to get back to the drawing board. The kids, they didn't really care. They just wanted to play out.
And when you look at that game, obviously the running back absolutely had a big game against you guys. Their quarterback running game combination. That game, you know what? But your defense really played well down the stretch. So in that Divine Child game. So describe that Divine Child game in your eyes.
Um, the old adage of defense win championships. Our defense hasn't been playing bad all year. They just haven't had the luxury of playing with us having a lead for a good percentage of that time. So they wasn't doing bad. To me, they was just taking too many snaps, which is an offensive issue. We wasn't sustaining drives and staying on the field and being complimentary to the defense. But in that game, they were able to create some havoc plays, force 3 turnovers. Um, Ironically, every game in the playoffs, defensively, we've scored a touchdown. So right now, the defense is playing really, really good football, and that's what you need going into the semifinals.
And then you look at, of course, last week you had no issue with Macomb Lutheran North, 48-3. I mean, a game for the backups to play. So talk about that regional final match against Macomb Lutheran North, how that one went for you guys.
Lutheran North presented some challenges. Our guys responded. We tell them the separation is in the preparation. So in film and during the week, we had to be assignment sound. Lutheran North came in, really good offense, running the option, something we haven't seen much all year. Another running quarterback, something that we really need to get a handle on as we get deeper in the playoffs. So we felt that if we can get them to plan B or keep them off schedule and win on first downs, then we can have some success. And then once you were able to put all 3 phases together, the game just kind of fell in our favor. Our defense was playing great. That means the offense can be more aggressive, and then we'll have some opportunities in the kicking game as well. So last week, I think all 3 phases kind of came together for us.
And also, how important was it playing at home? Obviously, I mean, we talked about it, playing Divine Child at home. But how important was it playing at home for this group? Getting ready for that rematch coming up. So we're going to talk Goodrich in a minute here. But how important was it playing at home in the regional final for you guys?
It was really important. Our guys understand that we had an opportunity to defend our home field. Our seniors have been here for 4 years. They played a lot of football games here. This year, we were able to go 6-0 at home. We got an opportunity to finish undefeated at home, which is huge for us. That's never been done before in school history. So the team got a chance to check off some boxes. The guys took tremendous pride in being able to defend home. And that's going to help us as we get ready to go to a neutral site, hopefully for the next 2 games, but definitely this week.
And when you look at, of course, the schedule you guys have played this year, I mean, it has been brutal. You playing against teams like Oxford, by Detroit Catholic Central, and also Groves. I mean, so those are 3 games that you guys lost, but you guys played some good teams there. Stony Creek, Rochester. Talk about that. Talk about how important the schedule is for you guys.
The schedule is the most important piece. We set goals just like every other team, to win out at home, to clinch a playoff berth, so on and so forth. But our guys understand that we need to play our best football in the end of October and November. They also understand that you don't have to be undefeated to be a state champion. So if losing a regular season game is the worst thing that happened to us, we're winning in life. That's our approach. We don't shy away from competition. We actually welcome it, and we seek it in a lot of cases as a measuring rod for ourselves. We play some really good quality opponents. I'll be the first one to tell anybody that the OAA, regardless of division, prepares you for deep playoff runs. We don't have the luxury of taking any Fridays off because everybody here can beat you on any given Friday, and you got to play your best when your best is needed. So scheduling to us is priority number 1. It will be each and every year that I'm here. And we'll try to measure ourselves and match up with some of the better programs throughout the state.
And when you look at, of course, we're going to preview this week's matchup for you. You guys are going to a very familiar place. It's an OA school in Stony Creek. You guys are having a rematch with Goodrich, the Martians. Goodrich, I mean, you guys know each other, especially from last year. So looking at Goodrich, what is your thought process? Looking at the Martians on tape, looking at them, familiar scheme wise from last year. Talk about Goodrich in your eyes.
One of the best teams in the state, definitely one of the top 2 or 3 teams in Division 4 year in, year out. They have a championship pedigree. I mean, I did a little research. Goodrich is a sports school. They're good in multiple sports.
Yep, football, basketball.
They're great, and their kids have that mentality. They're blue collar. They're a punch in the mouth type of team. And from what we can see on teams on film, they're definitely the big bullies in their league. Rightfully so. They're going to ground and pound you and be opportunistic with their play action pass game. Defense is lights out. I think they're giving up less than 8 points a game. So those will all be challenges for us this week. Something has to give. We have a pretty good offense. They have a pretty good defense. And we're going to see when we meet at the 50-yard line on Saturday. But tremendous program. I know Coach has been there for decades, and nothing's going to change with that. And it should, because what he's running is working. And hats off to them guys for another great run. But we understand that our hands will be full this week, and they'll get all of our undivided attention.
And I watched their game against Fenton, where they just absolutely just dominated it. I mean, like, in Fenton, was a bigger school than Goodrich. I mean, like, so I watched that film, and I'm going, like, what is Goodrich doing to Fenton? Like, Fenton, you look at the Flint Metro League, the teams in there, you got Corona there, you got Brandon Holly. I mean, like, obviously with Goodrich, I mean, like, what, and you look at that matchup, I mean, like, they present some big-time challenges, but you guys have played a tough schedule, too, so, as we mentioned, the importance of the schedule, very key for you guys, especially in a matchup like this against a very formidable foe like the Martians.
Yeah, I mean, we try to find similarities, commonalities between opponents, but when I look at Goodrich, I have to ask myself, very stout, very strong run game, a home run hitting running back. I mean, but when you look at who we played, CC has a great back, Groves has a couple great backs, and so on and so forth. So we've seen some great running backs this year. They have a big physical offensive line. We've seen 4 or 5 big physical offensive lines. This is going to come down to us winning individual matchups on Saturday. And that's what our goal and our expectation is as team. Measure ourselves against what some would consider to be the best offensive or defensive line in Division 4. So we're up for the challenge. We're looking forward to it. And they're a formidable opponent, but I have to remind people we're no slouches either.
And when you look at, of course, the venue, Stony Creek, I mean, you guys played there last year. So how important is it to play your state semifinal game at a venue you guys are very familiar with?
I think it's really important, from the standpoint of our kids have been there several times. Even though we played Stony at home this year, our junior varsity team played out there. We've been out there several other times for different sporting. Our parents already are familiar with the trip and how to get there. I think all of that kind of eases the tension and anxiety from players and parents and everybody in the program to be in a familiar place. I think that's tremendous. I think this year's venue is a little more neutral, a little more centrally located for the both of us. Last year being, in
Livonia. Yep, Livonia Franklin.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit lopsided for us, in terms of travel. But I like the Stony Creek venue. I think it'll be a great place for a Division IV semifinal game, and we're looking forward to playing on that field again.
And when you look at, of course, what color jersey you guys wearing? Because I looked at the playoff point matchup, and it was pretty even between you guys. And like, are you guys the road team or the home team for this game here against Goodrich?
Well, ironically, we got a message from the MHSAA yesterday. This morning at 8:30, they had a virtual coin flip Goodrich and Harper Woods had the exact same number of playoff points.
Yep.
So representatives from both schools and some representative from Stony Creek that jumped on the call with the MHSAA. They flipped the coin on Zoom, and we won. We are the home team on Saturday.
Ooh, so what color jersey you guys wearing? Maroon? You guys going black?
We haven't decided yet. My seniors usually decide all that stuff. But I'll have an answer for you a little bit later today. They haven't come to me yet and say, Coach, this is what we want to do. But yeah, our senior leadership team kind of puts the combinations together every week.
And when you look at this team this year, I mean, obviously it's a different team from last year. On the other side of Division 4, you got Niles and Grand Rapids South Christian. Obviously, you're very familiar with South Christian. I know you're focused on this week's game, but have you looked at the other side of the bracket? Seeing both those two teams at all? Like, I'm getting a little bit of a idea in the back of your mind.
I have not taken a look. I am a little bit superstitious in that regard, trying not to look ahead. But I am familiar with South Christian. And until somebody can beat them guys in the playoffs, they're my favorite to return to Ford Field. This will be year 3 in a row for them. I'm hearing that Niles is a really strong program. I'm hearing that they have, once in a, decade type of season. I heard they returned every player from last year's team.
Quarterback, running game. Yep.
So that's a tremendous amount of experience and leadership out there. And I hear they run the T. So
the wing T?
I know South Christian to have their hands full, but at this point, I'm not willing to bet against them guys from Grand Rapids. They're a pretty strong program, and they deserve to be exactly where they are. They have had to go on the road and just win.
Yep, and
tunnel vision in doing it. So until all the dust settles, I won't take a look, but I think that, you're going to have to beat them.
And when you look at the play of obviously your team, obviously the way that you guys have played really, really good last few weeks. I mean, so talk about the improvement from the regular season compared to the postseason.
Well, our goal is to get 1% better every day. We have made tremendous improvements from the regular season to the postseason. One, we built depth. We've gotten a lot of guys, a lot of reps. I think we're right now playing about 44 guys a game, which is significant for us on a team that has 49 players. A lot of that experience is invaluable. It'll help us down the line this postseason and going into the fall of next year. It's just been an opportunity because of injuries for some of them backups to really emerge and make a name for themselves. And going through the 3 or 4 week stretch where we had 12 starters out, a lot of younger guys got meaningful snaps in games. So that kind of hard work and that kind of depth is paying off for us right now. We're very comfortable in subbing some young freshmen and sophomores into big games now because they've played on that stage previously in the last few weeks. So we plan on using that to our advantage for the rest of this season.
And obviously, you look at this playoff run, how important is it for those younger guys to get those reps during practice, especially when you look at the future of the program heading into the next season? How important is it to have those extra reps, having this deep playoff run?
I think it's essential. It's tremendously important. This team and most people's measurements would be the rebuild. Last year's championship team graduated 20 seniors, which was 50% of our roster. There was a huge turnover. Nobody was expecting much of this team, but they grew up fast. Going into next year's team, where 80% of this team will be coming back, the sky will be the limit for them guys. They will have an insurmountable amount of experience, and that should hopefully help us in years to come. But having been able to play a lot of them young guys in earlier games, play them against bigger schools and stiffer competition, will help prepare us for teams like Goodrich that are really, really good in the trenches. When we played them last year, looking at the roster, we knew they would be exactly where they are. They were a young team last year. This year, they're a little bit more senior heavy, but those kids have been to battle. They've been in week 13, the last few years, and they're going to come to play. It should be a great football game on Saturday.
It'll be a very interesting matchup. I mean, like, when you look at the matchups, I mean, like, around the state, obviously you got your game. I want to get your thought process on the rest of the OAA teams. Adams is also in Division One. I mean, they're in Division One playoffs. They play Hudsonville. And Grove's the team you guys played are in the Division Two state semifinals, taking on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. So, what is your thought process of this league, having three teams right now in the state playoffs in three different divisions?
I think at this point, it's kind of the standard. What's happening in the OAA, we have double-digit strong programs from top to bottom. And at any given year, multiple teams are capable of making this kind of a run. I think we're the number one league in the state. Will put us up against anybody. Team to team, I think that the coaching in the OAA is elite, which is why I would favor Groves and Adams in their matchups. No slight to any other school. I just know through observation and playing these guys how hard they work and prepare. And I think that will pay off dividends for all three of us in the coming weeks.
And when you look at, the possibility of there's a possibility of three teams getting to the state final in Divisions 1, 2, and 4. That kind of tells you how strong the conference is. I mean, like, you look at, obviously, you guys in Division 4, Groves in D2, Adams in D1. I mean, like, it just tells you. And then you look at the teams that are not in the in there. You look at teams like Lake Orion, Oxford, Clarkston, Stony Creek, Rochester. I mean, Seaholm, I mean, like, Farmington, North Farmington. I mean, like, those teams have virtually beaten each other up, to get ready for this postseason run when you look at it.
Absolutely. And I laugh at anybody who wants to say that, well, I seen an interview with Avery Gatch from Groves, and somebody asked him, well, you guys haven't played that tough of a schedule. And he kind of laughed it off and said, well, we just played De La Salle, we played Harper Woods, we played West Bloomfield. It doesn't get much tougher. Is what I don't think people understand. Like, until you've been in it and been a part of those epic battles every Friday night, you just won't understand. But our league won't flinch in big games and competition because of what we have to do each and every Friday out here. So I definitely know the amount of work that they have put in, and I'm pulling for them guys as members of this league, and I look forward to all three of us making the trip to Ford Field next week.
And when you look at the league, obviously, this is going to be really interesting. I mean, like, the weekend here, I mean, it should be really interesting to see how it goes. Before I let you go, Coach, any impact players that made some noise for you guys during this playoff run that OAA Nation needs to know about?
Probably our receiver, DeAndre Bitted. DeAndre's a freshman, starting on varsity. He's making a name for himself. I mean, not your typical freshman, 6'1", 180-pound freshman that already has SEC and Power 4 offers from Bama, Georgia, Michigan. He's, when guys are trying to double Dakota, that's 4.43 speed on the other side of the field. So he's kind of tearing it apart. Having our running backs back, Donald Adams and Kobe Bailey, really stir the drink. They're the straws that stir the drink. So having them guys back kind of balances us out. But in our offense, the motto is always everybody eats. So our goal is to, keep defensive coordinators up all week because there is no solution to the guys that we put on the field. You can plan and game plan to stop one guy, and there are 3 or 4 other guys that can really, really hurt you. So we just want to remain multiple, remain balanced, and continue to play football at the level we're playing right now.
And when you look at it right now, the way you guys are playing right now, you're playing really good football, getting ready for this big game here coming up Saturday afternoon, taking on a really good Goodrich team. Final thoughts? Any final thoughts? Thinking about any final thoughts? Talking about your matchup against Goodrich?
No, I mean, just trying to, study ad nauseum, trying to really, really understand what they're trying to do and really get them on schedule, get them to plan B. We have got to stop this run, or at least slow it down. We understand that they are what we call a 2 versus 1 team.
Mm-hmm.
The clock versus you.
Yep.
And main fact that came out of last week's game and just watching them prepare is they limit your opportunities. Hazlitt only had 29 offensive snaps in last week's game.
Wow, that's insane.
Had the ball. So that puts a pressure on you to score essentially every time you do get it.
Yes.
And that's, to me, their best defense is keeping all the guys we just talked about off the field.
And the key is time possession football. You know what I mean? That's going to be the key.
Absolutely right. We clearly understand that.
Hey, I'm Harper Woods coach Rob Odin. Thank you for calling in this week here on the podcast. Wish you the best of luck this weekend at Stony Creek as you take on the Martians of Goodrich.
I appreciate you having us. Go away. Let's go.
Thank you really much. Okay, when you look at Harper Woods, when you look at the Pioneers, this is a team that they're an interesting team. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see how, we'll see how it goes. I mean, like with Harper Woods, we'll see how it goes. I mean, like, it's not going to be an easy game for them against Goodrich as we talked to Coach Odin, with them. I mean, obviously, so we'll see what happens. Before we talk to our next guest here coming up in a little bit here, we're going to preview Adams' run here they're going to take on Hudsonville in the Division I state semifinals. Adams coming off a 21-14 win against Grand Blanc. Mateo Humber had a nice game. The thing that really has impressed me with Adams has been their junior class. I mean, like, obviously on both sides of football. And obviously when you look at Adams, this is a team that really has, they've done well. I mean, they've done real well when you look at the Highlanders. I mean, like, Mateo Humber's been playing good. Ferris has really played well for them. They've gotten some timely plays. I mean, like, they've gotten some key timely plays in that game against Grand Blanc. They had to hang on. I mean, they got a touchdown late. So Adams, right now, they're clicking on all cylinders right now. They're going to be looking at playing Hudsonville in the Division I state semifinals. Of course, Hudsonville's coming off an impressive win against Howell, 35-6, where they were just, they dominated that game. They dominated Howell. I mean, I was surprised that, that the way they dominated Howell. I mean, I couldn't believe that, earlier in the year, that was a 23-20 game for Howell knocking off Hudsonville, and Hudsonville didn't even forget that game. I mean, like, my goodness. And, so when I look at this matchup, it's the first meeting between these two teams. I mean, like, but I don't know if Hudsonville has really seen a team that can run the veer like what Adams can. And, Adams, obviously when you talk to Coach Tony Petrino, and I talked to him during a media day, had that link on the YouTube page if you want to talk, my interview with Coach Petrino. So when you look at Adams, I mean, like, and they're doing all this without their starting quarterback, Rylan Waters. And that says a lot when you look at Adams. I mean, that really says a lot to where the Highlanders were. I mean, like, obviously Waters got hurt against Lake Orion, and and Adams had that tough loss early to the Dragons, and then they lost the next week to the Wildcats. But they've really turned things around since then. I mean, like they've, having that win against New Baltimore, Anchor Bay was huge for them. Basically for Adams, it was for having to go through those 2 games. I mean, like, really, had to say, you know what, we're not going to have him, so we're going to have to go with what we got. And what we got is they really haven't changed much. I mean, like, got to give Coach McFarland's defense a lot of credit with the way that team's been. You got to give them a lot of credit for what they've been doing. I mean, like, so I think with Adams, I think it's going to be a team that really has a lot of and I think with them, it's going to come down to is can Adams can they handle it? Can they handle it with the can they handle Hudsonville obviously up in the air? I mean, they basically, and Hudsonville did some trick plays. I mean, they did that hook and ladder for a touchdown, which was really impressive. But I think Adams is more defensively sounded than people think they are. And I think really, I think Hudsonville is going to have their hands full with Rochester Adams. And then on the other side of it, you got Detroit Cass Tech is coming off an impressive 21-14 win at Macomb, Dakota last week. And then you have Novi Detroit Catholic Central, who knocked out Belleville 35-21. And I know a lot of people asked me about that game, and a lot of people did ask me about the Belleville CC game. And they said to me, and I said, well, Belleville defense, I'm not sold on this defense, and I really wasn't in that game. I really was not sold on the on the Tigers defense because I seen what happened to them against Clarkston, where they blew a 2-touchdown lead, getting it tied at 28 in week 1, only to have Bryce Underwood basically save them. So I kind of knew coming in, I knew it'd be really difficult for Belleville against Novi Detroit Catholic Central. No doubt when I look at D1 right now, the D1 Final Four, I would have to say right now, the odds-on favor has to be Novi Detroit Catholic Central, but you can never count out Rochester Adams. I mean, like, Rochester Adams is a team that really loves being the underdog, and I would view them more of an underdog, than people think they are, because, the way that team's been, I mean, you look at the way the season started. When I did the football preview show, there was a reason why I had Adams and going undefeated this year. I had Adams going unbeaten. Now, it didn't happen, but I had them going unbeaten because of the experience, because of their junior class. I mean, the junior class has really been the difference. Mateo Humbert has also been a difference as well. Their offensive line's been really outstanding. Their defense has been good. I mean, like, you really look at it. Adams, the last 2 weeks, Adams is actually the last 3 weeks. I mean, Adams has been like really impressive. I know they were really impressive in the district final against Clarkston. But when I look at the matchup with Hudsonville, I think Adams has got a good chance here to win this game. I really think the Highlanders have a good chance here in this matchup to really, really do some noise here. They're going to make some noise. I think Adams will make some noise, and I think the Highlanders will be a team that, I think they will. I really think with them, I think Hudsonville is going to be in for a test, because I don't think anybody in the Ottawa-Kent Red or the Ottawa-Kent Conference runs the veer like what Adams does. And I think that's really going to be the team to where, with them, it's going to come down to is can Adams, can Hudsonville slow Adams down? And if they don't, then I can see Adams going to Ford Field, most likely having that rematch with Novi Detroit Catholic Central. So it's an interesting matchup. I mean, Hudsonville is a team that they were very good defensively against Howell. I mean, I was shocked with how that score went. I know they had to survive Greenville. I mean, their defense has been really good, along with 22 points in the last 2 weeks. Granville is a really good team that they beat in the district final. And then they had the knockoff Howell, which Howell was the overall number 1 seed in Division 1, considering, you know what I mean, just the way that they played. And for Hudsonville just to go in there and they basically just dominated Howell was just absolutely insane. I mean, Adams, of course, having to hold off Grand Blanc. They shut down a very impressive Clarkson team, and then they knocked off Stony Creek. So that's Adams' path heading into this matchup. Now, they are playing at Okemos on Saturday. So it's going to be a long drive for Highlander fans. Okemos, if you go off of, Okemos off 96. Hudsonville, we know, is in the west side. We know Hudsonville here, if you like the map here. Hudsonville basically is in the west side of the state right here. So, so basically Hudsonville is like in the west side here. Adams is like right here. So Okemos is kind of that middle part of the state, where they are, and I think it makes sense. I thought Lansing would have been a good area, but they decided, to do it at Okemos. So I will be very curious to see how many fans that the Gold Rush brings over there to Okemos on Saturday. So that'll be a really interesting matchup considering, it's a neutral site game. More travel west considering where Hudsonville is at. Hudsonville obviously having to travel 96 east, Adams having to go 96 west. So, kind of that divider, it makes a lot of sense when you look at the area where Adams and Hudsonville have to go. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. So we'll see how that one goes. But I think the matchup comes down to is Adams in the trenches. That does scare me a little bit with Adams. When I look at the matchup, especially taking on Hudsonville. Hudsonville, we know, is a deep team. They've always been a deep team. They're big up front. But for Adams, like I said, when I talked to Coach Odin, Adams, they're not going to be intimidated. I mean, they're not intimidated. They're, they're going to come in there with the chip on their shoulder. They're going to come in there motivated, focused, competent. And I think they're going to make some noise. I really think Adams will, I think they're going to go into Okemos, you know what I mean? Obviously, nothing to lose, everything to gain. I think Adams is wearing white on the road, and I think they're going to wear white on Saturday against Hudsonville. Hudsonville's got more playoff points than Adams, which is really surprising considering, you look at how the playoff points have gone. But Adams wearing white on Saturday going out to Okemos. Hudsonville going to be wearing their home blue uniforms. So I think this is going to be a really tight game between those two teams. So we'll see how it goes, and I think it'll be interesting to see how things go in that matchup. But it'll be an interesting game, to say the least, between Hudsonville and Adams over there. And then, of course, the other game, we got Novi Detroit Catholic Central taking on Detroit Cass Tech in D1. That matchup, I'm just going to say it right now. I'm going to call it on air. I just think, honestly, I don't know how Detroit Cass Tech's going to have an answer for Novi Detroit Catholic Central. Considering, obviously, now, I really think Detroit Cass Tech's defense is better than Belleville's. So they could give Catholic Central some problems, but I just think, honestly, when I look at that matchup, I just think that CC is a little bit, I just think that CC is a little bit better. Their quarterback's very good. Their rushing attack was very good. They went totally old school last week against Belleville, which, obviously you look at CC, what they're known for is running the ball, pounding the ball, and they're going to be a team that is just absolutely, they're a scary team. They're a very, very scary team. So we'll see what happens in that matchup. Before we talk Division 2 here with my next guest here, Coach Brendan Flaherty here, we're going to talk about the other matchup in Division 2. Byron Center taking on East Lansing. Byron Center, we know the team that's been red hot. They've been playing really good football, and I think when I look at the matchup between Byron Center and East Lansing, it could be really interesting because I've seen both these teams play. Both these teams have been battle tested. You look at, of course, East Lansing. They've had to survive some really tight games. You look at Byron Center, obviously, playing in that west side of the state, it's not been easy at all. So in this matchup here, it could go either way. I mean, that one could go either way between those two teams. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. And we'll see how it pans out. So we'll see what happens in that matchup between East Lansing and Byron Center. So, Byron Center, the way they're playing right now, they knocked out Mona Shores in the district final, which was shocking. And then obviously, they knocked out Portage Central last week. And then you look at East Lansing, they've been going through, they've knocked off some good teams here. So, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, now we're going to come back here. We're going to talk to Grove's coach, Brendan Flaherty, here on the podcast. Welcome back here to the podcast. We got the coach of the Falcons, Coach Brendan Flaherty here. Coach, you're back in the state semifinals. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. We're really excited about it.
Let's talk about the playoff run. Obviously, you guys took on Ferndale in the first round. And then of course you knocked off Seaholm, and then so talk about those two games in a little bit more in detail before we talk about last week's game.
Yeah, just getting through OAA is some of those guys, it's Ferndale, and then Coach Rowe does a great job with his squad, and so it's never an easy Friday. I think our guys just played pretty well that night, and things worked out for us. And then anytime we play Seaholm, it's just a super physical battle. So it's truly one of those ones where you can throw out the records, and it's like whoever really kind of brings it the most that night wins the game. So we were fortunate to get out of that one and pumped up about it.
And you outscored the Maples this year, 71-7 this year. You know what I mean? I know you won your first game 35-0, and then you won the district final there. So that was the stat total, 71-7. That's really unheard of in that type of rivalry.
Yeah, that's I think that score totally represents how maybe close it was. I really don't. I think it was just it's a tough battle, against those guys. So it's never really feel like a lead's fully secure. And, like I say, Coach DeWalt does a great job with those guys, and they run that offense to perfection, and their defense is, they do a great job of that too. And Coach does a great job with their defense defending us. And I think sometimes we know each other better than we know ourselves, and it's always a true test. And I think that really is a huge factor in us being so successful this year, is because we've got an awesome crosstown rival that pushes us to be our best.
And then let's look at last week. You took on Warren De La Salle. This was a crazy, crazy game. Obviously, I called it last week on the podcast, the test for you guys. Warren De La Salle has gotten your number recently. So what was the motivation? What was your thought process, the kids' thought process going into that game against Warren De La Salle?
Yeah, you play a great opponent. You want to try to strive for the positives as far as like they're going to push our game to another level. Being able to pull the very best out of our squad because we play such a good opponent, and having to play 4 quarters and it's like a 15-round heavyweight fight, man. It's just like it's comes down to about 5-6 plays, and it was one of those great games. And I think I spoke to some people that I think there's 7 guys on our team that were at that semifinal game 2 years ago, and they kicked our butt. So we were ready and hoping for another opportunity to play them and try to avenge that, and just try to do it. And just kind of those evolutions of the program. It took us a long time. We started many years ago with Coach McDougall and myself, and it took us a number of years to beat Seaholm, and then we beat Seaholm, and then it took us a number of years to beat Brother Rice, and we got that through that loop or that hump, and then now De La Salle was the next one. So very satisfying for the program.
And when you look at, of course, it starts with your quarterback. You call him Steady Eddie Ryan Counts. He accounted for all 3 of your touchdowns, including the one on 4th down and 16 to Chris Little. And that play, and that third play, there was some controversy there, considering what Chris was doing. Was he pushed out of bounds, or did he go out on his own? I mean, like, what did you see out of that, and from your angle about the touchdown?
Well, yeah, he's clearly pushed out of bounds. I don't know who's questioning that, but that's what it was. I mean, it was interference, and then he came back in and established himself, and made the play. So yeah, I haven't really heard too much about that. So
and then of course, but talk about Ryan Counts. Obviously, your Steady Eddie quarterback. You called him Steady Eddie before the season started. How important has he been for you guys offensively?
Tremendous. I think he just fits the bill. We just call him first down counts. Just worry about getting first downs, and the other stuff will take care of itself. It's just, that's the guy who's got the keys to the car, and we just trust him. I think for him, he's gotten better each week, and his confidence is built, and it's just joy to be around him. And he just, like I said, he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, just keeps us going, keeps us afloat.
And then, of course, anytime you have a really good quarterback like him, you got a really good running game. Obviously Mario and Noah Sanders. I mean, like, talk about, I know Noah Sanders has been playing really well, but so has Mario. So talk about how important having like a Sonic and Knuckles type backfield like the Lions do with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And you guys have that with Mario and Noah. So talk about those 2 guys.
Well, I mean, I think like their talents obviously speak for themselves in what their production on the field. But I think similar to like the comparison, and I don't know those 2 players for the Lions, but I mean, everything I hear and read is like, they're the best of friends, and there's no like animosity or jealousy, and they both root for each other and push for each other. And you kind of, I liken that effect to them. The skill level, everybody can make their own comparisons or whatever, thunder and lightning or whatever. But like, those guys are just great teammates, and they just pull for each other, and they're most worried about the score for the team as opposed to the stats for themselves, and they both bring great things to the table. And I mean, the best thing is those guys are fun to be around.
And then let's talk, obviously, your offensive line. You're led by Avery. Your line has really played really well for you guys. I mean, like, that's been creating holes and everything. And your wide receivers, obviously, with Chris, and then, of course, you have Mr. Hardy there. And also, your tight end Noah Woods has been really good for you guys. I mean, like, so talk about how important the offensive line and the and the receiving game has been for you guys.
Yeah, I think the offensive line feeds off Avery. And he's a super aggressive player, and they, the guys, like they're aggressive, and they get after it, and they finish your blocks. And, Leland Swanson's come back, Tyson Wright has carried us, those 2 guys have played center. Those guys are doing fantastic. Ray Glory's, been solid. He was out for a couple weeks earlier in the year, and he's doing a great job. And, we got, Lenny Jones, Matea, and it's just it's a solid group of guys. But again, they're led by Avery, and Avery gets them going. So, they're playing really well. Noah Woods does a great job, blocking and getting after it there first. So he's part of being the offense line, but then he comes up with some big catches. We had the tight end screen, which worked out to perfection the other night for us. So he's been instrumental to our success, but it just helps having balance, where there's other guys out there, Nick Hardy, and, Paul Hubbard's the guy who kind of gets forgotten there. He's starting on defense and killing that defense, but he's a tremendous, talented guy. So yeah, Paul and Chris and Nick Hardy, those guys are, it's pretty well balanced over there.
And then your defense has been legit. I mean, like you look at the last few weeks. I mean, like like in the postseason, been really, really good. I mean, defensively, and also talk about how important the young guys have been getting with practice reps and all that come with this postseason run for you guys.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's a month long of practice. Um, I think calling up the right guys too. So pretty much most of our sophomores, stayed up with us. A couple guys were dinged up, did not. And then we've got, I think we got like 5 or 6 I'm sorry, I got 6 freshmen up with us. They're just doing they're just doing a great job, and they're filling in there when they can, and they're holding their own. But the practice part is great because you get to work with them and they're involved in the extra training. But it's also that the experience part of like, that's a huge game they're a part of, and really the challenge for us as coaches trying to get them dialed into the fact that like, okay, you gotta like be a method actor, pretend like you're playing tonight. You want to be able to feel that adrenaline. You shouldn't. I don't need extra spectators. You want to feel the adrenaline, feel the pressure, if you will. That you're gonna have to go in and do things. And then of course, we always take pride in trying to win the sideline and be really enthusiastic and and be the loudest sideline we can and get after and help the guys around the field. So it's been a great boost for our program, and we'll help again, next year's and the years that follow.
And let's look at your opponent this week. Another Catholic League opponent. You got Orchard Lake St. Mary's at West Bloomfield this weekend. What is and obviously it sets up a really interesting matchup with you and against offensive coordinator and former Stony Creek coach Nick Merlo. So talk about what you've seen with Orchard Lake St. Mary's on film and a little bit about the history with you and Coach Nick Merlo.
Well, we got a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Merlo, and the Merlo family, we did battles against his dad way back, early on in my career when he was at Rochester. So like that goes without saying. He's an awesome coach, quality coach, definite step up. Schematically and helping those guys, put points on the board. I mean, I think they got close to 500 points on the season. And it's no accident that, Coach Merlo took over and that's the jump. So I think you match his, skill set, and then you got the skill set that, St. Mary's has got a bunch of dudes. I mean, they just got legit Division I dudes up and down that roster. And, I mean, it bodes well for them that both those are together. As far as playing at West Bloomfield, it's going to be a little strange being on the home sideline at West Bloomfield, but we'll try to get used to that as soon as we can, and we're looking forward to it.
Guys wearing green or black in that game?
I don't know. I got to ask the guys. I kind of let the senior guys pick. So those guys will make a decision here in the next 24 hours. We'll make a call. So it's hard to say because we've been pretty lucky the past couple of weeks in the black, but the green we won first week. So I don't know. I let those guys, let those guys decide.
When you look at St. Mary's on film, what stands out to you guys when you look at Orchard Lake St. Mary's?
I think just big plays. Big plays up and down, big plays in the kicking game.
And
just the that's the biggest thing is they're just, they got, like I said, they got Division I talent up and down there. So they're, trying to take away the big plays, trying to make them earn stuff, I guess will be what we're trying to do. But, they're just, they're loaded. They got a bunch of guys. And it's not, we can't really say, let's take it. Let's try to pass right into this guy. It's like, well, there's several guys that we got to pay attention to.
And when you look at, of course, and then when you look at, I also want to bring up also the rest of the league. Of course, Adams is still in, Harper Woods is still in. Talk about Adams and Harper Woods and their playoff runs. I talked to Coach Oden about it earlier on the podcast. So I'm going to ask you the same question. Obviously, with Adams and Harper Woods in, what's your thoughts on both those two teams?
Well, I think all of us take great pride in the OAA as far as being the one of the toughest leagues in the state. and I think, everybody can pound their chest, say, oh, it's us. But it's like, well, the proof is in, the proof is in the pudding, the guys who are, playing at the, near the end of the year, near Thanksgiving. That kind of bodes well for our league. I think, Coach Petrino, like, he just does such a great job at Adams, and I don't, like, obviously we don't play him, we don't play him this year, so I'm not following them intimately, but I think they, had a big injury to their quarterback, and then, boy, it's almost like the Lions. It's like, the guy went down. It's like those guys kind of bonded together, and they've just been playing even better. So I think that's a credit to Coach Petrino and his staff. Adams and those guys always do a good job, but we're pulling for them. We like to have all of us in the finals. That'd be great for the league.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Oden is one of those guys, that I really like, and just got a great amount of respect for him. He doesn't back down from anybody. And those guys, they're not going to shy away from any competition. And, he builds his program so they can make a playoff run. And, they're going to have success this weekend as well.
And when you look at a course, you're looking at playing at West Bloomfield, you said it, it's going to be really odd for you being on the home side. Playing in a place where it's familiar with you guys. I mean, like, how important is it for to be at West Bloomfield for you guys heading into the an OAA school for that matter?
Yeah, I see what I can say is that, it'd be our fourth semifinal, and I think it's nice for us to be in a place that all of our guys in our program have played at before, at one point in time or another, have seen it or been there for games or track meets and stuff like that. So, that familiarity is great, for us. It's also great that it's close by. We're not having to make some of these, poor teams feel, they're going to drive hours for a site. Us, we're going to go, 15 minutes away. So it's a nice, situation, we think, for us. It's a good situation for St. Mary's too. It's right down the hill. They're closer than us. So I think that'll be fun. Like I said, that would be a little strange being on that home side, but we'll get used to it.
And before I let you go, Coach, what are the keys for Groves against Orchard Lake St. Mary's in your mind?
I think it just, any stat that just comes down to is like, we just really try to say, okay, turnovers, winning the turnover battle, protecting the football, and then explosive plays. I think explosive plays and turnover battle are two, situational, like stuff that you can chart and stat and say, okay, well, whoever wins the battle of the turnovers and whoever wins the battles of the explosive plays, and plays the most physical can win that game.
All right, Coach Brennan Footer, thank you for joining us here this week on the podcast. I wish you the best of luck this week against Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and wish you guys best of luck as you try to get to Ford Field. Win one more, you're heading to Ford Field.
You got it. Thanks, Sammy. Appreciate what you do for high school football, high school sports.
Thank you very much. Coach Brendan Flaherty, coach of Groves here. We talked about the Falcons, and I think he's right on the money. That's going to be the key. So we'll see what happens in that matchup, but it'll be a fun matchup, to say the least, between those two teams. Picks for the week, Adams, Hudsonville. I'm going Adams in that one. I think the veer will be too much for Hudsonville. D2, I got Groves over Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I think the experience of Groves plays a factor here. And then D4, I got Harper Woods against Goodrich. I like Harper Woods in that one. Tight game, but I think that's going to be the case. So we'll see what happens going forward in that matchup. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog at Sagamay4650 at blogspot.com. Wish everybody the best of luck. Wish Groves, Harper Woods, and Adams best of luck at West Bloomfield, Stony Creek, and Okemos, respectively. And stay tuned to the basketball previews show. That'll be coming up this week as well. So, all right, I'm going to sign off here. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next week. Everybody, take care and see you then. See ya. God bless all.